Didn't understand that, but anyway, we'll see. We'll try and get this one if you want.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Om Bhadram Karnebihi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashe Makshaviryajatraha Stirairangaihi Tushtuvagam Swastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vruddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarsho arishthanemihi Swasti no bruhaspatir dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay. In the last class, actually, we have gone through the complete first question once again. So I will not do that again. Already twice or thrice we have done the summary of first chapter. But second chapter we started, second question we should say, not the chapter per se, but second question Rishi Pippalada is answering. So in this we have seen that Bhargava Vaidarbhi has asked the second question. Yeah? So Bhargava Vaidarbhi, the significance of this name also we have seen that Bhargava is from Bhrigu Gotra. So the Bhrigu Gotra, the people from this particular Gotra means family lineage. Gotra is family lineage. So this particular Bhrigu Vamsi, they have contributed quite a lot in terms of the Rigveda mantras and all. So generally these are the people who are the Karma Kanda oriented people. Generally that's what it means, this particular name. Vaidarbhi, we have seen again, is the person is from Vidarbha region. So Vidarbha is Darbha is the type of a grass which we use in yajnas and all, very important grass for conducting many of the Vedic rituals. Basically, this grass is used. In fact, when a student goes to the Guru, initially approach the Guru for requesting for the knowledge, many times we see that such a student either takes a bunch of this correct, a cluster of goods, or sometimes they take this dharba grass, because this is used by the Guru in their karma kanda normally. So the name typically indicates he is such a student who has already got introduced and quite an expert, because we have seen in the first introduction itself that these people are dharmanishtaha dharmaparaha, means they are already knowing the karma kanda fully, and especially this person is used to conducting many of the rituals of Veda. So the name indicates is that. So what he is asking, O Bhagavan, how many factors, how many devas? So in this one, every sense, every action that we take, or every aspect of our existence has got a deva behind. Deva is the subtle power, the conscious awareness power that is behind, which enables that. So if I am able to see, there is a deva behind who is enabling that particular vision to be active in you, especially. Similarly, everything has got this one. So he's asking which factors, devas, support the living beings. Means if I am existing as a living being, which devas are supporting me? That is how the question has come into picture. And which of them enlighten them? Here, the word that is used was prakashayante. So prakashayante is who enlivens them. Means I feel that my vision is a live aspect of that, which makes me alive, so to say. So enlightening is associated with not only knowledge, but what is enabling that particular power to be effective in me. So he is asking which are the ones which are making that. And among these devas, who is the Varishta? Who is the leader of all these particular powers or devas that makes me exist as a human being? So mainly the idea is that a person who is doing this Homa Yajna and all is aware of such powers behind, because every time you do a yaga, there is somebody to whom you are giving that ahuti. So when you put something into yajna, you say, this is for Indra, this is for Varuna. I want a particular, this one Putra Kameshti. If suppose somebody is doing a yaga also, there is a specific devata to whom they are giving this ahuti devas. So he's asking, now that you told me in the first question about the creatures, telling that the creatures are made up of prana and rai, matter and the consciousness or awareness aspect which is there, in which the rishis seem to have indicated that prana is slightly higher in terms of the existence compared to matter. The awareness consciousness principle inside has got a higher pedestal in terms of the existence, although you can see both everything as rai or everything as prana. They are kind of a mutually interchangeable aspects which are there, but it appears that Rishi has given prana is this one. So now the second question the guy is asking, the person is asking, who is the Varishta of all and who are the devatas who are supporting? As usual, Pipalada in first one also, when the first question they asked as to how the creatures are born, he has come out with a prana, rai and all and taken everything very high up as a Advaita principle. Everything is taken up and he has brought up the person who is at Annamaya Kosha level to understand that you are not Annamaya, you are that prana. That prana is an indication of Prajapati is the word that is used in this particular text. That Prajapati is the same as Hiranyagarbha, which we normally use, or Chaturmukha Brahma, let us say, creator. Yeah, that is how the whole thing is being told as it is Prajapati who manifests himself as the body. That in general, that is what the first question has been answered into. So in the second question again, when this question came as to which all powers or gods that support the body or the creature, and who is the Varishta, we have seen that Rishi Pipalada talks about it. He gives that as a form of a story. In that, he is in the while answering, he says that devas are the devas. Since the question has come, who are the devas? These devas are the space or ether, the air, water, fire, water, and earth. So Pancha Bhutas he has come out with, telling that these are the 5 devatas which are actually supporting them. And speech, mind, eye, and ear. Again, these are the aspects which are there. The speech, mind, eye, and the ear. They are the powers that are behind. And these 5 bhutas which are there, they are the supporting aspects or the devatas which are actually doing that. So he is not talking of Indra, Varuna, and all. He has suddenly brought these 5 elements into the aspect to say that these 5 elements are the devas. And also you have the mind, eye, speech, mind, eye, and ear. So he has come out with that particular aspect and telling that. And the story goes that once they say that we are the devas, they started fighting among themselves because the question came, who is the Varishta of all? So they have started fighting to say that we are I am the best among themselves. So when that happened, the verse 3 said, Tan Varishta Prana Uvacha. So now the prana again it gave its entry into the story or into the drama. So prana said that, wait, you are all telling that you are the highest, you are this one. But Tan Varishta Prana Uvacha, he started telling that Ma Moham Apadhyatam. Means don't be under any delusion that you are the powers to start with. Forget about who is the highest, who is the greatest, etc. Be not lost in delusion. Gurudev's commentary says, be not lost in the delusion. He says that I alone dividing myself into fivefold. Yeah, dividing myself into fivefold, support this body and keep it going. So he kind of he took out the air out of what they say, like that argument, and said that forget, you are not doing anything. I am the power which actually is there, dividing myself into fivefold. Why this fivefold came into picture? Because the five elements are there. And the idea generally is that each of these elements, I think in Tattvabodha you have this, that the five initial elements are subtle elements, what we call as Tanmatra. Tanmatras are the first created elements in this while the creation happens. And so the same, space, air, fire, water, earth, that remains the same, but they exist in two levels. One is a very subtle level, which we call as Tanmatra. And these Tanmatras then result in the five koshas, we can say that. Yeah, five koshas, which exist as in the form of a chakra and kosha at different levels in the body, they say, as per the Yoga Shastra. So the space is the one which actually gives rise to the chakra at the throat level, Vishuddha chakra, what we call as. And the space is linked to hearing. How do we know? Because each of these Tanmatras have got certain powers associated with them in terms of getting the feedback from the created world. What I mean by feedback from the created world is the Indriyas, Jnanendriyas. So Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. In that particular order, actually the powers are there for these elements for you to get the experience of the world from outside. So that's why he says, I am the one who is giving you power. To do what? If I am able to hear, if my ear is able to hear the sound aspect, then it is the space element. It is the space element which actually is the one which is creating this particular aspect. You can get one chair from down if you want. Yeah, thank you.
We have two here. We have two there.
Yeah, they don't want to sit so near, maybe. But anyway, so these five Tanmatras have got certain five powers that are associated with that. And so for the hearing, for example, we say hearing, but hearing has got a Devata which is defined as the Drik. Drik is the direction. So direction is nothing but that particular aspect of space element which allows you to hear this one. So what prana is trying to say is, although you are hearing, it is the space element or the Drik element or Drik Devata becomes the Devata for your hearing aspect. The space becomes this one. Similarly, the Vayu, which is there, has got Anahata Chakra or the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is there, has got a touch aspect that is there. So Shabda, Sparsha. Sparsha becomes this one in terms of the Devata. So prana is telling that I am the one who divide myself into these five elements, and five elements gives you five powers, and because of which you are able to hear, see, touch, whatever the five jnanendriyas are there. All this is able to happen only because of that particular prana, which is dividing itself into five. Okay. Now, so generally that is what the prana is said. But the story goes that the other gods, means these five elements which are there, they were not convinced. And they started fighting still among themselves and trying to ignore prana to say that it is not really the Varishta. So in the fourth verse, what we have seen is that the principal prana, which is there, this prana got irritated, it seems. As if it got irritated and it got up. Please come. It got up and to depart, as if it is departing from the body. The prana got up, and when prana got up, immediately every other power in the body had to get up and follow prana. So if prana is going away, that means no other power is able to stay in that particular power in the body. and everything was forced to take up and go after the prana. We have seen actually the word that is used as called iva, means prana has as if it is getting up and going. Really, if prana walks away, then there is no question of coming back into that body is gone, and we have to just put it into the dispose it off in appropriate manner. Yeah? So even as if it is ready to go, and it came back. That is how the story goes. And very beautiful example is given here as Madhukara Raja. Madhukara Raja, we have seen, is the queen bee. The queen bee, when it leaves the hive and goes off somewhere, all other bees which are there, worker bees, are forced to follow and go away. And whenever the queen bee tishtati, wherever it settles down, that is where all the balanced bees will start putting a hive around. So example like that is given as to how the prana controls and supports all the other beings, all the other powers in the individual body. So that is what that particular says there. The fourth one ended there. Yeah. And the fifth one also we have read already. Yesha Agnis Tapastesha Surya Yesha Parjanyo Maghavan Vayu Yesha Prithvi Rair Devaha Sadasas Chamrutam Chayat. Means this prana, now the from here onwards, next some 8 or 9 verses are there in this particular this one, where prana stuti is done. Means recognizing the fact that we are not powers by ourselves. The very sentiency that we get in our body is because of the prana. So the recognition of the individual pranamaya kosha to say that I am not the I that we are talking about, because there is a strong feeling of I both in our body as well as in our senses. Because we have that the sense of I-ness in our senses, we become a seer, a hearer, a toucher, a taster. So all that aspects that we are telling that we are, really we are not. Only the prana through this uses the eye as an instrument to see. Prana as the ear is as an instrument to hear. So it is the prana which is actually doing everything. I am nothing. Really speaking, the I-ness that is there in my eye is not real I. That particular I is one prana. Always, when you see our sadhana, when we talk about in terms of sadhana, we try to reduce as much as possible the I-ness, the individuality associated with that, so that vyashti aspect is dropped at every time, and we go to the samashti aspect. So, when we talk about these particular aspects of powers, etc., there are 2 times. One is called one is called Gyashti, that means individual aspects that are there, which actually creates a feeling of I-ness within ourselves. I require to drop that at every level. So when I say this is my body and I am this particular this one, because which actually has got a aspect in terms of our practicality. When we are coming to the class, I cannot leave the body in the house and come here. So body and me are together always in this life. At least this is together which are there. But really speaking, what we require to understand is that prana, the action is requiring this particular body to be done, but the I-ness associated doesn't require the body. How do I know? Because my own experience, again, we go back to, in the sense that when I sleep, the I-ness remains in my dream, but my body is dropped. I am taking up a new body. That type of this one is given. Yeah. So the general idea is that Vyashti body, although it is there, the individual body, the I-ness is very much present. I require to drop it somehow in my sadhana and go to more generic term. Sadharana power we require to attribute to it. So what we say in that particular this one, what we said, Vaishwanara. The term Vaishwanara is used in the question 1 by Rishi Pippalada to say that the same Vaishwanara, the universal I who is there, he is actually reflecting as the individual I in each of the bodies here. But when I go from my sadhana, if I want to drop the I-ness from the body, I have to associate myself with that Vaishvanara. And they say that Vaishvanara is the one who uses this particular physical body. And this body is nothing but an instrument. So the I-ness will be dropped, and I give a status of an instrument to each of this. In Pranamaya Kosha, similarly, what he is trying to say is when that Vyashti, the individual aspect, it has to be dropped from the senses, which are very, very powerful in terms of that I-ness that is there. I require to drop it and say that all this is a very generic power. My I is not really very specific or very special. The same I, the fire power which is there, is giving that particular aspect. So that element of fire is same for everybody. There is nothing special in me as such. My eyesight is so good or my eyes are so beautiful. Nothing like that. There is got a particular aspect in terms of seeing that it provides you, the power it provides you, but the same power is there for every one of us. So I drop the individuality, I catch on to that sadharana power to say that I am that particular. So the 5 elements, they are the ones who is giving this power to every one of us. Now prana comes and says, even the 5 that you are seeing is not really 5, it is one prana which actually is giving that power. Not only giving that power, it is making use of that instrument to gain the experience of the world. So who is enjoying? You are not really enjoying. I'm thinking, so beautiful, I'm seeing, I'm enjoying. Really speaking, the person or thing that is enjoying is that prana, which is actually dividing itself into 5. Dividing, when we say there is no real actual division, it is manifesting as these 5 aspects of power that is gaining that experience from the world. That is how this one is telling. So this prana is the one which actually is providing that particular power. And one second. Tan varishta pranaha. Okay. Yesha Agni. So here the prana burns as a fire. So the 5 elements that are given here, prana burns as the fire, shines like a sun, rains like clouds, rules like Indra. This bright one is the wind, it is the earth, it is the matter. That's what Gurudev is telling. It is both that which has form and that which is formless, and also what is immortal. So sadasad amrutam cha yat. That is how this one says. So it is with form and it is without form. This is a very, very important aspect that can be looked at in 2 different ways. Sat and Asat. When we talk about Sat and Asat here, the whole of our experience when we talk about has got into, that can be split into 2 in terms of that. One is called Sat and other is Asat. There are different definitions. Gurudev here talks about Sat as that experience that we can gain with our 5 senses. So Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha, which is there, this experience, it can be, we can have that with respect to using our senses. We gain the experience from outside. So if suppose there is a book here, then there are many aspects associated with the book. Similarly, if there is a food item that is in front of us, it has got certain aspects to that, where the full experience that I gain, I may have to employ different senses. So if suppose there is a rose flower that is brought in front of us, the whole experience of the flower we can have only when I touch it. It has got a softness associated, and it has got a smell, it has got a different color associated with that. And if we taste, it has got a different taste associated with that. So every aspect that is there, I can gain the full experience of an object only when I employ all the 5 senses associated with that. Then I will gain the full experience associated with that particular this one. whichever experience is done using the five senses is the Sat. For me, what is reality is when I directly experience an object using my five senses. That becomes Sat. Asat normally is taken as one which is not in existence. Really speaking, the Shastra's explanation of Asat is that I cannot gain experience using my five senses. Try to gain that. It is not that it doesn't exist. I'll give you an example. When a dog is taken to in a crime scene, yeah, it is able to smell something which a human nose is not. It's not possible for me to experience that. Similarly, it can hear sounds which are way beyond the range of the sound which I am thinking that it is there. It doesn't mean that sound doesn't exist. Beyond the range what our ears can say, other sounds are also in existing. We know that already. Ultrasound, etc., which we talk about, is beyond our human ear's perception. So the asat is that which is beyond the perception range of the five senses that you have. Really speaking, the asat doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Asat is that which is beyond your perception of your current range of these ones. It varies even among the human beings. As I get old, the what I can see, what a baby can see or a young child can see is different. It is beyond. So my range is reducing over a period of time when I become old. And those people, those aspects that are there beyond the senses becomes asat. So the form and formless, you can now imagine as to in all the five senses, not only with the eye that we are talking of form and formless, but everything which is beyond the perception of me, but still exists becomes the Sat. So this becomes Amritam. So the prana that we are talking about is much more expanded in terms of, so its experience is much different from what you are able to experience, so to say. Yeah, and very clearly it talks about the rains, Maghavan. Maghavan is the term that we use for Indra. Again, remember, this is prana where the yajna and other stuff is coming into picture. So Maghavan is the name that is given for Indra, means he is the top most in terms of accepting the ahuti that is given in the yajna. So that becomes Maghavan. So, and Indra is nothing but representing the Indriyas. He is the lord of the five Indriyas or 10 Indriyas, we can say. He is the Indra. So he is the lord of the Maghavan. Maghavan, Vayuhu, Yesha, Prithvi. So the five elements that we are talking about are ruled over by this Indra, and Indra is nothing but that Pran. Mainly, you will find that in this particular text, everything is going back to that Prajapati. And when we talk about creation, it is not as if he is creating a new thing. He is only manifested himself as this one. So when we, in the first question also, we have seen that when Prajapati manifests himself as Prana and Rai, they themselves again manifest as Surya and Chandra. So the Surya Chandra are not different creations. His same Prajapati manifesting himself as Surya and Chandra. So the same Prajapati ultimately, he says that he becomes rain, he becomes the very jiva that is there, comes through this rain and enters the garbha of the woman and comes out as, so same Prajapati is the same Prajapati manifesting as the different aspects of this creation that you are seeing, or the differences that you are seeing. Concept remains exactly the same. Now he is still talking about the same Prajapati or the prana is manifesting itself as the five elements, and through five elements, the five senses. Yeah. And the mind is always taken as a lord of these five senses that are there. So it is both form and formless, and that becomes immortal. See, mortal and immortality is more to do with again the individual aspects that we are seeing. Moment we drop the individuality, attach ourselves with the samashti, the totality aspect associated, there is no more the death and birth aspects associated with this. Normally, that's how it is taken as this one. Okay. One last thing is that is not given in this text, but it is taken as this, especially Sat and Asat aspects that are there. Yeah. So Vyavaharik Prapancha, when we talk about, normally we say that the Annamaya Kosha, which represents the physical body and activities associated with the physical body, Pranamaya Kosha, which is associated with the senses that are there associated with that. These two are with the form. This actually is a kind of a limit. Part of Manomaya Kosha, will come to that, are the ones which are experienced with your senses. Anything which is beyond this in terms of your, for example, Manomaya Kosha is the emotions associated with that. For the emotions, Manomaya Kosha is kind of a bridge between form and formless. The Sat and Asat, Manomaya Kosha is a bridge associated, and Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya Kosha, they are the ones which you cannot actually grasp with your senses. So they become the Asat aspects. For example, how do you define Anandamaya Kosha? As either ignorance, three gunas. So the definitions vary in terms of what is the Anandamaya Kosha. Anandamaya Kosha can be either Trigunatmika, or you can say it is aspect which is the ignorance aspect which is there, or Vasana. So these are the subtle aspects that of your existence. You can feel them and their existence in your mind, but really speaking, you cannot grasp them with your senses. That's why when somebody says that you are Sattva Guna, I cannot think about what Sattva Guna is. I can only say my general activities that I am doing, general tendencies that I do, general tendencies that are there in my mind, I then say that I must be more sattvic in nature, or somebody else must be more sattvic in nature. We are only seeing that, but really speaking, you cannot grasp with the five senses that are there. Think about that. So the Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya Kosha, they are normally taken as the Pratibhasika Prapancha. You know that Pratibhasika? No? Okay. Vyavaharika, Pratibhasika, Paramarthika. The three aspects that are there, yeah? These three aspects which are there are called the way we experience the world. I hope it is not too heavy. But anyway, Vyavaharika Prapancha is one which you can actually gain the experience through your five senses, called Vyavaharika Prapancha. Pratibhasika Prapancha is the pseudo values you are projecting onto this Vyavaharika Prapancha and try to either give importance or hatred associated with. Raga Dvesha is nothing. If I see a particular object in front of me, there is nothing in the object really to give me either raga or dvesha. That doesn't have anything. That's why each one of us project a different value onto this, and that becomes a raga and dvesha. If suppose some Samsung phone is there, people who like iPhone hate this Samsung phone. Then this Google Android is a useless phone. iPhone is better. Really speaking, it is providing the same similar this one as far as the value is concerned. But I am giving that value to that. Who is giving that value? Your Vijnanamaya Kosha is providing that value. So when I say that I like it or don't like it, really the object doesn't have that. Individually, we are providing that particular this one. We are projecting our own likes and dislikes. And we say this is better, this is not better. Adani stocks are better, this is not better. Somebody tells something, Adani will fall. Really doesn't have anything to do with that. I am telling that there is a value associated with that. If we stick to that, then that is what it is. I purchase accordingly. But when I say that, no, this particular value of the house is 300,000, really speaking, but there are 5 people competing. So I project a different value onto that, and the value increases to 700,000. The idea is that that particular aspect of Pratibhasika Prapancha is the one which actually binds you to this world. You understand? This Pratibhasika is individual. That has got two implied meanings to that. Mean to say that if I see the world as the world is, as Ishvara Srushti, if it is there, it is up to the level of this is Ishvara Srushti. Everything is there, I am seeing that. But Jiva Srushti comes in when I project a value associated with my own likes and dislikes, my own vasanas. So that becomes the Pratibhasika Prapancha. So the Asat that we are talking about is the Pratibhasika Prapancha associated with that. But Shankaracharya beautifully puts it as it is the thread which runs through different flowers which makes up the garland. I am that particular thread associated. I am not individual flowers. Like that Pratibhasika Prapancha actually takes that, says that both Vyavaharika and Pratibhasika is nothing but my projection, and I am that particular aspect, and I don't give any value to any associated, either is Ishvara Srushti or Jiva Srushti. So that is the highest in terms of realization, and that is called the Paramarthika viewpoint of the world. So Vyavaharika, Pratibhasika, and Paramarthika. Whole our sadhana is to get rid of this Vyavaharika to start with, and to do that, I also need to take out the Pratibhasika values that I'm giving to this world and overcome that aspect of my own thinking. Whenever we say that I like this, I must then say why I'm liking this. Who is that I who is actually making me to say that I like this particular this one? What type of, this is bondage associated. The whole bondage is because of this Pratibhasika. And in general terms, we say that Vyavaharika is your waking state, Pratibhasika is your dream state. In dream, the I-ness is there. You are projecting a world of your own. Really speaking, there is nothing there. No tiger is there. It is not chasing you. You are not running. There is no forest, no trees, no, nothing is there. Really speaking, your own mind is projecting that particular world, and you get entangled into that dream world as long as the dream world is going on. So when I come out of it into the waking state, there is a Ishvara Shushti. You cannot deny the existence of Ishvara Shushti in terms of this, but where I can help is to take out that Pratibhasika aspect of the waking world, to say that why I am giving so much importance to this, why that particular thing is appealing to me, why I am getting entangled into this. So that Pratibhasika aspect one, if you can take it out, they say sadhana, the whole sadhana is accordingly that. When they say go internal, go interior, don't look outside. Reduce your desires. Desire is what? Your own, that Pratibhasika Satyam that you are projecting that makes the desire. To say that I require this car, it's not sufficient, I want more. All that is coming because of this projected value that I'm putting onto the existing world outside. Whole project, this one is to come out of this projection that we are putting in terms of value, in terms of ragadvesha. So if you keep this in mind and start reading some of the things which comes out in terms of reduce, when Krishna Bhagavan says that reduce your desires. Desire is the one which is entangling you with the object. Whole thing is because it is individually coming from. So how we come out of that is the major aspect which we require to understand. Yeah.
ShankarJi, so at our level, Paramarthika would be a deep sleep, or would it be a Turiya?
Turi.
Turiya?
Because the deep sleep is still associated with your Anandamaya Kosha.
So ignorance.
It is ignorance. As I told, Anandamaya Kosha, either you can take it as ignorance, vasanas, trigunatmika. There are so many definitions that are given. But why do we find it difficult to understand this Paramaharthika sthiti or the deep sleep state? Is because it is not within the grasp of the senses. Like I understand a word outside or a story outside or people outside, etc. The knowledge that we are gaining using our senses is not possible for me to use them to gain the knowledge of the these subtler aspects of ignorance. When we talk about avidya or maya, you can't use your brain to get that. It is intuitively known. Why? Because they are part of that. Maya is part of the Brahman, part of that Paramatma. And who is Paramatma? Not somewhere sitting outside, you are Paramatma. That very feeling which is there. So to understand this, we require to grasp that particular, this one is very, very subtle in terms of doing that, because they are beyond the grasp of the senses. So they become asat. In our terms, we say Maya is asat. It has got a different connotations when we talk about asat, means one which doesn't exist is asat as far as we are thinking. But really speaking, what Shastra definition of asat is that is beyond the grasp of your senses becomes asat. That's why many of the people who don't believe in Ishvara, for example, the Ishvaravadi, why they say that it is not there? Because I cannot grasp it. How is that it is existing? So I deny the existence of Ishvara. So I become Nirishwaravadi. Nirishwaravadi does not mean he doesn't accept a higher power. Again, there is one more subtle response there. But doesn't matter. But some people, even people who follow the Shastras, they say there is no Ishvara. Because there is no requirement for me. I can directly connect myself to Brahman. Ishvara is no place in my theology, my philosophy. No requirement. And mainly that gets support because that Ishvara cannot be grasped. With your intellect, with your mind, your senses, it is beyond all that. Only a subtle aspect of this one which you can grasp the concept of Ishvara is by existence, what I am experiencing in the world. That's why definition of Ishvara is not normally in terms of the experiential aspects. When we say Satchitananda, what does it mean, Satchitananda? Is it got three different aspects that are there? No, then the Shastra says, no, not there. They are all only indicating that particular power. Why? Because I am seeing Sat aspect here. When I see the world, book is existing, phone is existing, computer existing, you are existing, my specs are, everything is existing. Sat is there everywhere. Nobody need to tell me I exist. Even when all the five senses I cannot operate, the I-ness is there. That Sat aspect is there. So that must be that Ishvara because I am that Ishvara. So Ishvara is there, but I am defining Ishvara in terms of my experiential aspect now. I will slowly drop that when I reach that place, but really speaking, the experience is what. So always we say that where is the dough when you make roti, for example? Dough disappeared, roti came. Where is the dough? Where the roti is. So Ishvara disappeared. Really speaking, not this very manifested, but Ishvara disappeared after creation. Where is Ishvara? In creation. So in creation, what is there? Satchit Ananta. There is Anantatvam aspected with the creation. So Ananta is infinite aspect which is there. Ananta aspect is very difficult to grasp as well. Why we say Ananta is that because he is Eka. Only one is there is no second. Advitiyam. Advitiyam is nothing but Advitiyam. There is no second. That becomes easy. Only one is there. So infinite aspect is difficult to grasp. So what we say is Ananda is brought into picture. Ananda, bliss aspect when we say. What is bliss again? Bliss is something, joy that we get is by gaining something which is not me. Definition of joy is gaining which is not me. So if there is something other than me and I gain it, I get a joy. That is what the entire world is operating upon right now. So when we say that this particular aspect is not me and I'm gaining a joy. But if I am everything, what is that joy? So you are the bliss itself. Means there is nothing further to gain for you. A Raja who is there conquered the entire world, everything is his. There is no desire to gain this, that, everything is mine. I ask, it is there in front of me. So that becomes the Ananta. Ananta is nothing but there is no second aspect, everything is me. So that particular aspect is more subtler, but Sat and Chit are very much experiential in this world. So I define Ishvara, who is indefinable, in terms of my experience in the world. Sat and Chit. Sat is outside me, Chit is inside me. Once we gain the knowledge that this inside me as a consciousness is nothing but the Sat outside, is a realization has come in. Another definition of realization. Again, very subtle. Okay. Any other? Okay, we will go to 6. Yeah. Ara iva ratha nabhau prane sarvam pratishtitam ruche yajushi samani yajnaha kshatram brahmacha. So, as a spokes in the nave of the wheel, everything in the universe, the Rik mantra, the Yajur Veda mantra, and the songs of Sama, means the three Vedas that we are talking about, all yajnas, all dynamic activities, Kshatriya and Brahmana, and all spiritual endeavors, Brahmanas, is fixed in the prana or the energy. Now, very not very easy to understand verse really speaking. Suddenly, a hub is there. In a wheel, when you see, there is a hub in the center. What they say, the center of the hub actually never rotates in that sense. Yeah. But when it moves the wheel, and the whole wheel actually is moving forward in terms of this. But the center of that hub, which is there, the axle hub, which we are talking about, it is the one which is actually turning the entire wheel around it. Yeah? So here, Araiva Radhanabha. So like that particular hub, which allows the complete movement of the wheel and the entire movement possible, he says this prana, in this prana, everything is pratishtita. So it is centered around. So when we talk, and the spokes of the wheel that are there, they are being taken as the different aspects of our living. So for example, in this particular case, we have the 5 elements, which said we are the devas which are taking care. It is like this particular hub of the wheel, which actually is turning this entire thing in terms of the wheel. Like that, everything is pratishtam, everything is supported by the prana. So as I told, the prana stuti is started now. So they are actually recognizing the very fact that without prana, we are nothing. Normally, what happens when we are just operating in this world, we think that we are the greatest in terms of, especially if I have a little bit of power associated with that. For example, if I have very keen eyesight, I become very proud in terms of that. If I have, Dayanand Saraswati says, any vibham that you have, any power that you have, or any talent that you have, any skill that you have, we get very proud in terms of thinking that I am that, I have that, I have developed this one. Says that particular aspect should be taken out by recognizing the fact that anything that is there with you is only a what you say, a blessing that has come from the prana. So it's recognition of the fact that whatever I am getting is nothing to do with me. It is that the prana which has provided me that blessing in this particular life. And I should ever be grateful in terms of that. Entire idea again is to take out the individuality, associate yourself with the universality which is there in terms of that. So here it is telling that and Rusho Yajushi Samani. Initially, Vedas were Trayimaya. If you really see many of our Upanishads and all, it recognizes only 3 Upanishads.
This is from Atharva Veda. So
Atharva Veda.
Atharva Veda not mentioned here.
So the entire idea is that there is no, really speaking, differentiation in terms of the Veda. Veda is one, really speaking, and Atharvana Veda is something which is carved out of the entire Veda. And to say that this is related to the sadhana aspects have been taken out of these 3 Vedas by Vedavyasji when he did, and he made it into 4 Vedas. Veda was always there, which was so this the 3 Vedas that are Veda Traimayam is the one which is normally taken as. We must understand the Veda is not different from the karma. The karma aspects that are there are part and parcel of this particular aspect of our living. So here, when we talk about three Vedas, how Gurudev is talking about when he talks about three Vedas is that every aspect that you are able to do, including studying of the Vedas, is made possible because of the prana. You have a question? No. Okay. I thought you raised that. Okay. So the entire idea is that anything that you are looking at in terms of any action, whether you are studying Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, you take any of these aspects of the sadhana, is possible only because of the prana behind. That is what is the general commentary on this particular verse Gurudev is talking about. Any karma kanda that you are doing is because of this. Any jnana kanda you are doing is because of this. Prana behind, the power behind is the one which is making it possible. Why he is bringing it out, this one? Because in the first verse again, in the first question, we already saw that there are two paths to overcome the limitations that we are seeing in this world. Two paths, karma and jnana. How do we define karma? Is in terms of, anybody remembers? The two aspects of karma, whoever follow the Vedas also, is Ishtam and Purtam. Yeah, I mentioned that. So the Ishtam Purtam is karma kanda associated with that. And to do that, what is required? Prana behind. So is your prana, so recognition of the fact that I am thinking I am doing these two paths, but here is telling, Gurudev is telling that it is a recognition that prana is the one which is actually providing me that Shakti. Without you, neither I can follow this karma marga or jnana marga. We said is tapas, brahmacharya, shraddhaya, vidyaya. The four aspects of jnana is tapas, brahmacharya, shraddhaya, vidyaya. So any of these paths that I take, both are possible only because of the prana behind. Prana is the one which is providing that power. And I am thinking I am following this, but really speaking, prana is the one which is allowing me that Shakti to follow that particular mission. Recognition again, reduce the individuality, attach yourself with the universality. Yes, sir. Prana here is self itself. Prana here is self itself. Prana is not something different from self. In this particular word, there is a different meanings of the word prana, but this text, prana is Prajapati, Prajapati is Brahman, the self. Yeah. And here, Kshatriya and Brahmana, the two words are used. Gurudev, as usual, makes it very clear that this says these two are nothing to do with your birth or anything like that. The Kshatriya aspect is any aspect that you do, any karma you take up requires these two aspects of knowledge. And second thing is the Rajoguna, the aspect of ability to do that particular aspect and protect it. So there are two aspects to the action. One is the action that you do itself. Second is the Kshatraguna. The Kshatraguna is to protect. Like Rama and Lakshmana goes and protect the Vishwamitra's yajna against the Tataka and other stuff. So there is an aspect of protection that you require to provide whenever you are taking up a spiritual activity, especially. The entire idea is that it's very easy to give up. This particular path of knowledge is easy to give up. There is always a particular discipline that comes up from outside. So why are you wasting your time? So the entire idea is it requires Brahmana, it requires Kshatra also. So it requires a Rama, it requires a Lakshmana for you to protect that particular discipline and gain the knowledge associated or provide the knowledge or use knowledge. All three aspects are associated with the knowledge. So that particular, this one is Kshatriya and Brahmana is nothing but it says Kshatriya, the idea being inducted in terms of Kshatriya, Brahmana, here they do not stand for the denigrated, the degenerated concept of two castes as it exists today, but it is the qualities of the adventure and dedicated work is Kshatra, and for the nobler and subtler qualities of head and heart, making man see visions of perfection as philosophers and thinkers is Brahman. So the subtle aspects of these two are being referred to by Kshatriya and Brahmana. It says doesn't mean only Kshatriyas and Brahmanas can do this. No way, or they can only study these three Vedas, nothing like that. Gurudev is very, very clear in terms of negating all that. And Kshatriya-like activities and Brahmana-like visions are possible only when the generation is well under the grace of the prana. So the prana that we are talking about is that aspect of the Ishvara. Yeah. Okay. Did I miss anything? One more aspect which comes here is here prana is talking about this comes from Swamiji Paramatmananda, who says that prana presents as both para and apara. Yeah, prana here represents both para and apara prakriti, or the shakti associated with that. He says, and like the spokes of the wheel representing 6 koshas. The 6 koshas are like 6 shadaram. This comes from again chapter 1 when we talk about the wheel and the axle. There very clearly the Upanishad talked about there are 6 of these. 6 are nothing but the 6 koshas that are there associated with the formation of the body. So he says that representative of that kosha supported by the 7 chakras, and here these are supported by the prana. So the same prana supports the entire existence, not only the 5 senses that we talk about. The entire body is supported by the same prana is an idea that Swami Paramatmananda brings in. Yeah? And the 3 Vedas support both Karmakanda, Kshatriya and Jnanakanda. So he's there, he says not only activities and all, but Karmakanda itself is represented by the Kshatriya, and the Jnanakanda is represented by the Brahman. So that words of Kshatriya and Brahmana are the 2 parts already we have seen in terms of Ishtam and Purtam and Tapas, Brahmacharya, Shraddha, Vidya. So these 2, slightly broader, this one is given by him when he gives commentary on this particular text. Yeah. Okay. 11:31. We can stop over this one here and we will take it up to the 7. Next time. Going a little slow, I think.
Shankarji, I have one quick question.
Mhm.
So with the consciousness or prana, anything that is conscious, you can see the light or the breath in it. But with the, for example, anything that's not alive, how do you convince yourself that yes, God is here too?
That is where we come out in terms of the Sat and Asat aspect, which we discussed just now. The idea is when you say that you are thinking you are alive, how you are determining that a particular person is alive or dead? Using your 5 senses, you are doing that. Yeah, you put immediately you put your hand, and if there is no this one, you use the gaya. He has gone.
That's a good one.
So this is again, you are thinking that this particular thing is what I am seeing is what it is. What has gone is the body possibly. Body is no longer used as an instrument. Suppose my specs are there, it has this particular kinged off, I removed and put across. So it stopped to be a spectacle, for example, this one. And I replace it with a new one. So the entire idea is that the instrument has gone. You are really not gone. The whole thing is that I am not able to see the consciousness aspect behind the inert objects. So I say that this table is inert. But in Hinduism, there is no concept of inertness. And that is the reason why this question also came in too, as to which is the Deva which is actually supporting this. So for us, a river is not an inert water flowing. We say we recognize the aspect of Deva even behind the river. Mountain is a Deva for us. there is a mountain god associated with a mountain. It's not an inert substance for us. So the concept of Deva is there behind every inert object, including your body. Remember, body is also inert. Body is part of this inert world. But I am recognizing the Deva within me to say that I am alive. I am not able to recognize the Deva behind a mountain. How is it that particular, then we say that a inert object is alive in terms of consciousness? Because every element, every this one has got a specific characteristics it displays. So water is inert, you say. Water doesn't have life, correct? But it is able to produce a particular this one that at 100 degrees, 0 degree, it becomes an ice. And within that, there is again an anomalous expansion of water at 4 degree, it somehow expands. Contrary to all other response in terms of temperature, somehow water expands at 4 degrees. That is allowing the entire fish population to survive. Because the top becomes an ice, the water remains below. So the whole thing is, and we say, because we don't understand the Ishvara behind, we say it is anomalous expansion of water. Science doesn't know what it is happening, why it is happening, but we say it becomes. So we say, no, there is a Devata which is supporting the consciousness element, which is supporting that particular characteristics of each and every inert object that we talk about. So if a earth is there, there is a specific this one which is providing. So every element has got certain characteristics. Where it is coming from? It comes from the Deva. We say that it is the consciousness which is reflecting. However, in this particular inert what we talk about, the sentiency seems to be missing as far as my senses are concerned. I'm not able to see sentiency in that. So it becomes inert as far as my Sat is concerned. But once I accept that Asat is present, then everything becomes sentient. That's why for Hindus, everything is worshipable. Whether it is a pig or a bull or this one or a mountain, or everything is worshipable.
So we have to focus on our senses being defective all the time.
Senses as defective.
Yeah.
They're not defective, they're limited. They're limited. They're very, very limited in terms of this.
I would say, like, if there's a piece of rock, I may not be able to perceive what it can perceive. I cannot perceive what it can perceive, but perhaps it can perceive. So I think that you see it from the point of view of that object, that the table exists. Anything that's in existence, it's Sat. So if you see it that way, then everything that we can perceive by our eyes that exists, it exists. And there are many things that you cannot perceive with your eye. They also
Sat and Asat.
yeah.
So, Sankarji, can we say that in Asat might be the unknown that is not known to us, but it has its own prana, and if that's the case, and it seems that's the case, so why we as a human needs to go through all these things and all the problems are to us, or is it problems are associated with them also? It is unknown to us.
Difficult to answer that, because as Tanuji was telling, difficult what they perceive, what they do, really we don't know in terms of that. However, remember, if you take it at a very high level, all this that we are talking about is mithya. They don't have a
More yoni than us. Yeah. If you think that way, they are going through more suffering than we are. Yeah.
So another thing I always feel like, because why we don't able to develop faith and we need guru, one of my interpretation is because we are limited by our senses. So till the senses are working, we say, we will read this, we will become engineer. We'll read this, we will become doctor. But we don't know if we read something and practice something, we'll achieve that unknown. Okay. So in fathoming the unknown, we do have doubt on ourselves.
oh, sir,
And that's why that is always pushing us back. Even though we are trying 10 times and it is pushing very hard, we are coming back. Looks like this is fine. Okay, every time.
So Shankarji said that this question is very difficult. So the thing is, when you're asked, Who is asking?
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Something is changing is not Satya. If something is changing, whatever we are saying, I'm seeing ShankarJi. So if I'm not seeing ShankarJi, then ShankarJi is Satya or Satya? If something has changed or changing, it's not Satya. What I
You know,